Going on, people? It is Christopher here, back in the building with the mid-season Premier League predictions, and you guys are probably wondering, why the hell are you doing mid-season predictions? Because after all, we are at the halfway stage of the Premier League season. However, there are still a couple of things that need to be decided, including the Premier League title, because we do not have a clear front runner for the league. We also need to decide top 4 places, top 6 places, and the relegation fight. Even though it's that little bit closer this season, well, either way, it's not confirmed as of yet. So let's not jump to any conclusions or think that there's going to be any guarantees, because after all, the 2020-2021 Premier League season has been very, very wild, to say the least. And yes, I've got my Man United scarf on because I think there's a faint hope that we could win the league. However, let's not jump to any conclusions. As I mentioned, let's not get too hyper or overreact, because we still got a long way to go. But in this video, I'm going to give my take on who I think will win the Premier League title, who I think will end up in the top 4 and the top 6 for that matter, who I think will get relegated, who the managers are that I think will get sacked before the end of the season or after the season has ended, prior to the start of next season. And at the same time, I'm going to give 2 teams which, one, I think will have an absolutely brilliant second half to the season, and the other team that I think should be worried going into the second half. But without further ado, let's get started on the video. And first up, I think the Premier League winners will be begrudgingly Manchester City. However, I think the points total this season will be lower than in previous years, because I think the war of attrition is getting pretty much to each and every single player, the managing staff and the coaching staff, and to an extent possibly the owners, as we also saw from the other day when Frank Lampard managed to lose his job. But I think City, if they're to win it, they'll win with 79 points, which ironically, well, not uncoincidentally, was the same amount that United got during our famous treble-winning season. But it will be lower than the 2015-2016 point total won by Leicester that season. And by the way, Leicester got 81 points that season, just to kind of set the benchmark, because 7 of the last 9 Premier League winners were top of the table at Christmas. But with Liverpool on their slide of form recently, there's kind of a few indications to me to suggest that actually they may not retain their Premier League title. But I think they'll win it by 2 points over their nearest rivals. But anyways, moving on to the second point of discussion, who will make the top 4 spots? Because with City in my predicted top 4, of course they're going to be top of the table, so they're in. Let's not worry about them. But I think United, we should be able to make it, because if we can pick up our consistency and iron out all these like tiny little mistakes here and there, I think we're more than capable of making top 4. I think third, and by the way, this is no final order, but I think Liverpool are going to get third. And yes, I'm going to be brave and back United over Liverpool to finish second in the league, over Liverpool finishing third. Fourth, I think Tottenham will finish fourth. So there'll be St. Hotspur Day once again in Tottenham and amongst the Tottenham Hotspur family. But at the same time, that is my top 4. But Tottenham, even though they started the season quite strongly, I have to say they've kind of tailed off a little bit with their inconsistencies. But I think Mourinho should be able to get it done and bring home another top 4 finish for Spurs. Anyways, moving on to my top 6, and in no particular order, but I think the 2 teams that will round out the top 6, and I'm going to be brave once again, I think Leicester are going to be there once again, because from what we've seen so far is that they've beaten a couple of the top 4, well, the big 6 sides, which for those that don't know is basically made up of Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City and Tottenham. But they managed to pluck out 2 good results, well, 2 wins against Manchester City and Chelsea respectively, with Man City succumbing to a 5-2 defeat against Leicester early on in the season, and obviously Leicester beating Chelsea at home at the King Power Stadium. So I think Leicester will make it, but Chelsea, despite their recent struggles, I think they will make top 6 this season. And sorry, Arsenal fans, that means you're not going to be making any of the top 6 places unless you somehow win the Europa League and still retain European football. But next up, moving on to my relegation battle, but the 3 teams that I think will go down is Sheffield United, Fulham, and a slightly controversial pick at this very moment in time. However, I'm going to say Brighton are going to go down, because I could mention West Brom, I could mention Newcastle, I could mention Burnley. However, the reason why I'm saying Brighton, and I'm not trying to be salty or trying to be offensive or try and shame them, but Brighton, to me, they don't have, in my eyes, enough game winners or people to kind of make the difference in that team, even though they've got Danny Welbeck, Adam Lallana in that side. But aside from that, there's no standout players to kind of elevate Brighton and kind of take them up that another level. And at the same time, even though Graham Potter did a good job at keeping Brighton up last season, I still think there's a sentiment, I feel, in the Brighton community that they want to potentially try and push for that little bit more in the league. They should be around like a mid-table side, but that's just me trying to be as impartial as possible. But I think Brighton, they're the ones that are pretty much going to go down at the end of the season, which is a shame. But at the same time, I kind of look at it and think all good things must come to an end. Look at Bournemouth, for example, because after all, who would have thought at the start of last season, by the way, who would have thought they'd have gone down? But I think it's the same case scenario with Bournemouth or Brighton. Well, Brighton looked like a shadow of that Bournemouth team last season, so hence the reason why I think they are going to go down. Next up, I'm going to be bold and going to be controversial in the meantime, but managers that are going to get sacked this season, I think number 1 on my list is Steve Bruce, because at the same time, Newcastle, they're in a very, very bad slump at the minute and look on the verge of being a relegation side. And at the same time, I don't think Steve Bruce's future is very stable at this moment in time. So I think Bruce is the most likely person to lose his job. But as I mentioned, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to be bold. But I think Thomas Tuchel, now that I said that he's not going to be making top 4 with Chelsea, I think he's gone end of season, because at the same time, Chelsea, they live and die by the revolving door manager policy. And I think if Frank goes after 18 months, given the amount of money that he spent, and Tuchel, once again, he is aware of the fact that the expectations at Chelsea are sky high, I have a feeling that if he does not make top 4, then he too is a goner out of Stamford Bridge, for that matter. But on a more positive note, the team that I think will have a very good second half to the season is Aston Villa, because I think if they can keep their squad together, they can keep it healthy, if they have the likes of Grealish firing on all fronts, Watkins to be scoring goals here and there, Mings being a stable defender at the back and going forward, and Emiliano Martinez, who once was an Arsenal player, believe it or not, and he said that going to Aston Villa was seen as a step up in his career. Well, he doesn't look wrong in that aspect after saying that and the first few months of this year's Premier League season. So could he very much well come back and haunt his former employers at Arsenal by finishing above them later this season? Well, fingers crossed that, and I've got both of them crossed, by the way, even though I am a United fan, but I am hoping that Villa finish above Arsenal come the end of the season. However, on another note, and yes, I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but the team that I think should be worried going into the second half of the season is Wolves, because last season they were contending for Europa League places, which seemed like an eternity. However, I think the injury to Raul Jimenez hasn't helped them in any way, shape or form. However, my biggest concern for Wolves at this very moment in time is where are their goals going to come from? Because even though Jimenez is a top quality striker, hence why United tried to chase him down last season, but at the same time, if he's not scoring goals and he's not going to be back until March, who else is going to chip in and score goals for Wolves left, right and centre? Hence why they're 15th in the league, I think 14th in the league if I'm not mistaken. However, the fact of the matter is that goals win you games, even though we all know defence wins titles. However, it's fair to say that without him, Wolves are going to struggle, and that is the team I should be worried for. And on that note, guys, that is the end of my mid-season predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want to check out my Week 19 or Week 20 Premier League predictions, then the videos are right here and right here. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel right here. Make sure you guys are checking in on your friends and your family. And until next time, guys, peace out.